album, we do things like songs that are a little, what we call sexy. You can see from the title, it's more of a love album.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to another week of Manifestations 2020. This week, we have a special show for you guys in store, which is we wanted to do the basic breakdown of the Jeezy and Nia Long interview that happened about almost 2 weeks ago. I think that being that we were, nobody really had this conversation, nobody had the dialogue, and we didn't want that type of impactful interview to just be swept under the water or under the rug. We wanted to actually take the time to dissect it and pull out some important pieces inside the dialogue, and bring it to life and highlight it. I think there's a lot of great points in it, and that needed to be highlighted and also to give extra content too. And you'll see why we did that, why we chose to do this, and you'll see how impactful it is once we break down the different segments. So we're not going to take too much time out tonight. We just want to dissect this whole thing. So with that being said, let's get into the first one, the first video real quick. All right.
Activation moment of trauma for you?
I think there was several things. I think the first was being left with a babysitter that was a woman that was older than me. I mean, that was older, and her, you know, touching and doing things to me that don't normally happen to kids. Right?
Like molesting.
Right, basically.
Yeah.
So I was introduced to sex at a very
Really
young age.
young.
Yeah. Second thing was that I had this lady that lived next door to us in an apartment. She was married to this guy. They had 2 kids. And
Yeah.
it was around my age. And I used to hang out with them. And I was there one day. And I remember like it was yesterday. They got into an argument.
Yeah.
And me and the little boys was playing in the room. And I heard them, you know, and I heard that saying before, you wait till I get back. I'll be right back. And I kind of looked at the boys. I'm like, yo, you know, and sure enough, he came running upstairs and he went in the closet, right? And when he was going in the closet, he was fumbling through the closet. And I saw it when he pulled it out, it was like a big, like had to be like a silver 357.
Oh
And
my
I looked
God.
at them and I immediately was like, yo, we gotta hide.
Yeah.
And
But why did you know to hide?
because I had been around that before growing up. So I went and climbed under the sink in the bathroom and hid. And I heard some yelling and all I heard was,
He killed the wife?
he didn't kill her, he shot her like 4 times.
Oh my God.
Right? And he ran, left us there. My mom and dad came looking for me.
All right. So that was Jeezy talking about the trauma that he endured as a child. I picked up on that. I felt like the highlighted part about that for me was the fact that when he started out, he talked about how he was molested by his babysitter. That is a occurrence that I see happens a lot to young boys. And they don't really get to tell their story like that because there's no empathy or sympathy for boys being molested or raped, as there's sympathy and empathy for women or young girls that are raped or molested. You know, it's a bigger type of effect, right? Normally, when you have young boys that do get molested or they speak out about it, they kind of get shamed for it. You know, they're like, yo, you're supposed to man up. You're supposed to, you know, enjoy that, man. You know, dog, that's what a real man, boy, you lucky. You know, I wish that was me. It's never like that when it's a girl. We don't say, oh man, you know, that's not something you should talk about. That's something you should supposed to be happy about. That same message isn't prolonged the same across the same board. And when we do that and we ignore that both the boys and the girls need the same treatment, need the same kind of protection, I felt like that part of what Jeezy was saying kind of led, and I thought about the whole R. Kelly situation. Because remember, R. Kelly got molested by a friend of the family who was also in the babysitting role as well. And you saw what that led to. R. Kelly end up coming out and being a monster behind him being molested and not getting the proper healing and treatment during that time, and also not allowing the woman who did that to go free. And God forbids how many other young boys that she did that to, who created monsters and pedophiles and predators, sexual predators that weren't as big, high profile like R. Kelly. R. Kelly was pretty much under the microscope because he was huge. But imagine somebody that's local in the community doing this, they're not going to get that exposure. They're more than likely going to fly under the radar more than an R. Kelly. So imagine if she created about 5 or 6 of these guys that don't have the limelight like R. Kelly, but are terrorizing our neighborhood. That guy, those boys turn into men and now are destroying women that men in our ages now have to cope, now have to deal with the healing process of these women, now have to deal with the trauma behind what these guys had left into these women's hearts and the pain that they caused these women. So I felt like pointing that out with the Jeezy situation. Thank God there was no reports of him going out there molesting other women, but it also it plays a role of how he was probably not treating Black women, because that's who proximity wise, he was messing with Black women. And that's probably why he wasn't treating Black women with the utmost respect, because he felt like he got disrespected and treated a certain way by a Black woman. And now he felt like he wanted to turn that anger onto Black women and probably was doing the same to them as well. So that was one thing that I had wanted to point out of that whole situation with that. And I'll leave you guys to figure out what else you guys wanted to add on that or that you pulled out of that segment.
Real heavy conversation. I got really the same thing that you got out of that, man. The part that jumped out to me was, the molestation part, more so than anything else, for the same reason, because when a lot of our young boys are molested, people look the other way and they act like it's a good thing. In fact, we promote that in our culture, which is something that we absolutely should not be doing. Children are children. And, children, one reason I don't want to raise my kids in South Florida now that I'm of age where I'm ready to start a family is because I knew too much too early. I'd never been molested or anything like that. But, these little girls used to run up on me all the time, touching me and all this type of stuff or whatever. And I would just, tell them, get out my face. You know what I'm saying? But these little girls was fast. I remember the first time, a little girl touched my genital area. I was in first grade. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I still remember the girl who did it. You feel me? And it's like, yo, we have to get our kids. I have a very, very, very strict policy against messing with kids, bro. You mess with kids, all bets are off. I feel like you should be boiled in oil and killed immediately, bro. You know what I'm saying? You don't mess with the child's innocence, straight up. And so, in our community, unfortunately, I mean, there is no open policy where it's okay. There is, but too many of us, when the gender roles are switched, if the little boy don't say nothing, you know what I'm saying? We act like, he's a man now or something. And that's toxic behavior that we need to get away from. And a lot of people feel like that's pushing back against, homosexuality because, that's being kind of force-fed to our community right now. So they feel like you're getting out ahead in front of the problem, but no, you're not getting out ahead in front of the problem. You're just causing a child to likely become over-sexualized. You know what I'm saying? Because when you start, you're not supposed to be thinking about sexual things at that age, man. You know what I'm saying? Maybe into adolescence, you have your conversations, whatever the case may be. But, we just have a very backwards way of thinking when it comes to that. And we need to get away from that as a society and start, checking people. When they see something, when you see something, say something. And if it doesn't cease, you need to get on the horn with them folks. And I'm not a person who, advocates for, calling the cops on another Black person, but something gotta give. You know what I'm saying? And these type of things have to be stopped. That's real talk, man, because he still ain't right to this day because of those things he experienced when he's a small child. And that's not fair to him. And it's not fair to the people that he encounters or when he wants to get involved with someone seriously on a romantic level either. You know what I'm saying? That's just not fair at all.
Exactly. Well said. Bobby, what's up with you? What you pulled out of that?
Um, this is a subject that I have a lot of passion for
Mm,
because not only, again, does it have to do with the most defenseless of us, our children, but also
mhm,
it's about the consequences that these incidents cause for adults, not just men but women also. There are a lot of men right now who are not able to perform romantically and in their interpersonal relationships with women because of damage like what Jeezy suffered when he was a child. Where there are men right now, and one of the most common myths, and I always catch flack when I say it, and I don't care because I'm not concerned with people giving me a cosign. The truth is the truth, and if you don't like it, feel free to swan dive off a skyscraper. But the
mhm.
reality is, this myth that's pervasive, that keeps on getting spread, that monogamy is something that's unnatural, that men weren't designed to be with one woman. That's pure bullshit.
Oh, I
That
hate.
is some of the highest grade bullshit on the black market right now. The
Agreed.
reality is, unfortunately, a lot of young men are not raised with discipline, let alone sexual discipline. And
Mhm.
so they literally go with whichever direction the wind pushes them on any given day.
Yeah.
So they weren't taught how to have discipline, how to be able to stay committed, but also because a lot of these young boys, unfortunately, were hypersexualized early due to sexual assault. Their hormones aren't regulated properly. So
Mhm.
they're unable to properly. We talk about the difficulties that women have with pair bonding when they've been passed around. Males can have that too. And that's the reason why some men are even when they understand that their marriages, their relationships are in jeopardy, that their family might be torn apart by what they're doing, and they might toss themselves into situations where they have to deal with alimony and child support and everything else. They know they see the trap, and yet, like a moth to the flame, they can't stop going forward because there's an issue inside. They don't have the discipline. They don't have the ability to go ahead and pull themselves out. And it's not because they're wired that way. It's because the wires got crossed up.
Mhm.
Really quickly, because again, like I said, this is something that's very, very sensitive to me.
Yeah.
Um, a 2005 study was conducted by the CDC on the San Diego Kaiser Permanente HMO members back then, and they reported that based on some of the research that they did, they found that 16% of males that had come forward as being sexually abused said they were abused by the age of 18. A
Mhm.
2003 national study of U.S. adults reported that 14.2% of men were sexually abused before the age of 18. So that's a national study, not a local one. A
Mhm.
1998 study reviewing research on male childhood sexual abuse concluded that the problem is common, underreported, underrecognized, and undertreated. A 1996 study of male university students in the Boston area reported that 18% of men were sexually abused before the age of 16.
Mhm.
1990 national study of U.S. adults reported that 16% of men were sexually abused before the age of 18. So, for the most part, it's safe to say, and also we understand that males, as unlikely as it is for victims of sexual abuse to come forward, men are even less likely than women to come forward about sexual abuse.
Mhm.
So it's safe to say that the numbers are probably a whole lot higher than what they are. But as of now, based on the information that's been gathered, the current statistic is that 1 in 6 men, period, have been sexually abused. So
Wow.
you gather 6 men random in a room together right now, at least one of them has been a victim of sexual abuse.
Wow.
This is even more significant for us because we understand, unfortunately, that when everybody else is catching the cold, we catch pneumonia. So if
Mhm.
the national
Yeah.
average is 1 in 6 men are sexually abused, it's safe to say that the number for black men is probably more like 1 in 4, maybe even
Mhm.
1 in.
Three.
And so the question is, when we know that treatment isn't very high for these people either, they go and suffer this abuse, and then what happens? Do they internalize it in a negative way and they become your R. Kellys who are out here preying on others?
Mm,
Uh, do they become these hypersexualized males? You know, a lot of women recently I've seen have poked fun at men who are constantly jumping around and having sex with different women, saying that it must be because they're homosexual. I've heard this said. That could be a case that they're trying to cover it up, but there's a very good chance that the reason they can't stop dicking down everything that walks is because their ignition switch was started a whole lot sooner than it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
mm,
The wires never got untangled. So this is how they are now.
Real talk.
A
yeah.
lot of that was due to babysitters, friends of the family, could have been an auntie, possibly an uncle. In some cases, it could be a cousin, it could be a neighbor, school teacher, people who have access to our children. So this is something that needs to be taken seriously.
Mm,
Um, we need to really start giving this the proper attention that it needs. It does not make you weak as a man if you've been sexually assaulted. You aren't responsible for the trauma that you were suffering from. You
yeah.
didn't ask. There's nothing. Even if you did ask for that, you're a child. You don't know what the hell you want.
Real talk.
Yeah.
Kids could have it their way. They'd eat ice cream all day and never touch vegetables.
Mm,
Children have never been a good authority on what is best for them because they don't have the experience or the years under their belt to make those kind of decisions. That's why they have parents, guardians, caretakers, people to make those executive choices for them.
Mm-hmm.
And once they
mm,
reach a point where they're mature enough, where they have some intelligence, they have the mental and emotional and physical tools to actually navigate this world, then you can go ahead and get out there and be somebody. But until that point, you're not qualified to make any decisions about yourself in that regard. And next thing you know, you're an adult struggling and you don't understand why.
Mm-hmm.
mm.
So my heart goes out to Jeezy. I hope that this conversation might even spur him to go ahead and seek some therapy, seek to get some understanding. I noticed when he was trying to speak on his situation, he couldn't even call it molestation. Nia had to call that, and then he still didn't say it, but he basically gave the nod because he just couldn't allow himself
Right.
to acknowledge it, and that shows you that it's still there and it's still a problem for him because he can't call the devil what it is to its face.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
brothers out here like Jeezy that need help, and that need to have these kind of conversations. And I'm hoping that someone who's respected the way Jeezy is, I'm hoping that him being that transparent will inspire other men to understand, hey, if the snowman went through this and he's still dealing with this, then it's not a shame for me to say that this is what I've been through
Real
and to
talk.
possibly for some treatment and some therapy to go ahead and help undo some of the damage that's been done.
Definitely. I think that was definitely spot on and appreciate the statistics. I always like when stats are being quoted. Um, I want to say that yes, he didn't say that because I think deep down inside, him still being that tough guy, that street cred, everything that aligns up with his stature of what a real man or real dude is, kind of will still break down that it's a stigma that makes you feel like you're broken, you're not as strong as you are because you have been tampered with at a very young age. So I think that kind of has him in a chokehold of saying, yes, I
Yeah,
was molested, because it makes him feel like he was vulnerable, he was weak, when he portrays himself to be super strong or have that inner strength. And we'll definitely see issues of that where he talks about deeper into the interview. So I definitely want to get on to the next clip, which is this one right here.
It feels like uh, women shouldn't have to be this strong.
Right.
I don't want to be this strong sometimes.
Right.
Okay, you made me cry.
Yeah, I got you first. But you're good though.
No, I'm good. I mean, listen, it is what it is. You know,
I mean, it's life. It's a funny thing because like I always saw myself. My vision of myself was you know, well manicured man, good skin, wedding band, plain Jane watch. Even though I'm wearing this right now.
That's not plain
And
Jane,
yeah,
by
I
the
know,
way.
but it's
That's
I
very
wore the wrong one,
reminiscent
right?
of Hustler Day
Oh damn, my bad. It was this was the
drug
one.
dealers.
Oh, really?
Oh my
Okay.
God, that's where I was. I lived in South Central LA. That's what it was.
Wow.
Hold
I
on.
would have
I
never
think
thought that.
this. Hold on. I think this was that one was a replay. My bad. Let me I don't know why that one added up. Let me play it back. I'll play it back. I'll play it back.
Okay.
Yeah. My bad. My fault, people.
All good.
Your trials and tribulations, like
Yeah.
I know you're working on yourself, like we all
Yeah.
are. Do you feel that you're okay? Like not what people are supposed to see and supposed to think. You.
I think I'm exactly where I need to be, which is some days I'm like totally good. And then other days
that.
I'm like, oh God, this feels like so much work.
I feel that.
You know, and then other days it feels like women shouldn't have to be this strong.
Right.
I don't want to be this strong sometimes.
Right.
Kate, you made me cry.
Yeah, I got you first. But you're good though.
No, I'm good. I mean, listen, it is what it is. You know,
I mean, it's life. It's a funny thing because like I always saw myself, my vision of myself was, you know, well manicured man, good skin, wedding band, plain Jane watch. Even though I'm wearing this right now.
that's not plain
And,
Jane,
yeah, I
by the
know,
way.
but it's
That's
I
very
wore the wrong one,
reminiscent
right?
of Hustler days.
I feel, you know,
That's a little hustlery.
Well, it's supposed to be plain Jane, but I felt a little spicy
Nah,
today.
nigga, that ain't plain Jane.
And I don't think anybody should have to be that strong.
Black people have survived insurmountable obstacles. The journey of being Black in America is not easy. And I'm not a victim to any of it.
Right.
But I'm realistic to the journey.
Right.
I know how I am treated differently in certain situations. I understand that I have to raise my boys to be men. Right. I understand that I have to figure out the balance between being soft and vulnerable and open.
Is that hard? Like being
No,
soft?
because that's who I want to be.
All right. So I particularly picked that part of the interview because whenever we ask a woman, are you good, right? You always got men that really, protective men, the men out there that really care about our women. We always ask, are you really good? And for her to be in a vulnerable state and for her to get a safe space to basically tell the world how she feels during this interview, I thought was super dope because I believe that she represents majority of the women. And when I say that because he says, are you good? And she's like, yeah, some days I'm like this and some days I'm like, oh gosh, it's a lot. And then she's like, I want to be soft. I want to rest in my divine femininity. And just the thought of that made her grab some tissue and cry. And she was extra vulnerable at that moment because the reality sets in for a lot of these women who are so self-sufficient, who are out here basically showing other women that you don't need to depend on a man. And it's okay for you to be on your journey of soloness until you reach that man. But the reality of that is it doesn't pan out to be something that is so enjoyable. It's actually something that is very detrimental on a long-term basis where, you know, there's days you want to give up, but you don't have a mate that can say, you know what, fall back, I'll catch you. It's you. And then you have children. So you have to go through the extra just to make sure you provide for yourself and your kids without the added help to say, you know, today I don't feel like doing it. And you have a spectacular mate that says, baby, don't worry about it. I got you. If you want to take off the whole week, I got you. Don't worry about the bills. I got the bills. Take off. And that endures a lot of self-care, and it also preserves a positive mental health space for your mate as well. So now you can regroup, re-energize, and assert yourself back into your workplace, into society, and also into your uh, family structured home, and be the extra spark that you need to be with a refreshed mind, kind of like you taking the battery out of a phone and hitting the reset button. That's what a great mate offers you, is they give you the chance to actually pull the battery out your back and reset yourself. And now you're back re-energized, full of the updates and everything like that, to get back on the playing field to do what you have to do. And I just wanted to highlight that part, because I felt like, you know, as Black people, like she said, we have so much weight on our shoulders, and at times the weight can be heavy, and we need each other in order to balance that heavy weight that society brings. And I'll land my plane on that.
Well said. Well said. I'm glad you got that part. Because I've been meaning to send you that. So that was one of the ones I wanted you to touch on. That was like one of the deepest parts of the whole interview to me, because you very seldom see women just be vulnerable and be feminine and be who they really supposed to be. They're always trying to hide behind this tough guy image. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, he asked her and she was honest. You know, she said she feels like she's right where she's supposed to be right now. Mm-hmm. That means that she's not okay. If she was okay, she would have said, yeah, I'm okay. You know, so that sort of kind of means that she's not really okay. And she further offered that explanation that she's not really okay by, you know, when she started crying and talking about how women shouldn't have to be this strong. That means the translation to that is, a lot of times, you know, I mean, look at her recent situation with her marriage going south, whatever the case may be. A lot of times brothers let them down. We do let our sisters down sometimes, you know what I'm saying, in a very, you know, in a very serious way, in a very negative way, in a very cyclical way, where, you know, it's not only do we let sisters down, but it's taught that it's okay to let sisters down. And specifically when we're talking about infidelity, that's one area that we kind of excel at in that, and we need to really check that. That's another thing that irks me. Bobby was talking earlier about something that irks him. That's another myth that irks me. You know, that men are somehow supposed to be unfaithful. You know, we're supposed to be out here hopping from chick to chick. You know, yeah, it's just what we do. You know, we're not plantation bucks, bruh. We either kings or we not. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, you know, a lot of cats, they're so loyal. Loyalty is everything. Loyalty over, you know, death before dishonor, this type of shit. They want to quote that, but they're not loyal to the woman in their life. You know what I'm saying? Like that's real funny style to me. This is the person you supposedly love more than anything in the world, and that's the one person you're not loyal to. That's bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, part of, you know, to tie into what she's saying, part of why they feel like they have to be so strong is because a lot of men have that mentality where we just gonna cheat and you got to deal with it. We're going to be unfaithful and you just have to deal with it. And that hurts them sometimes irreparably. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, this is also your wife, the mother of your kids. When you get, you know, on that level with them, you know, you have to kind of check yourself and step outside of what you've been taught and unlearn some things. You know what I'm saying? And I thought that was really, really, you know, it's really sad that she had to have that moment, but I understand why she did. And I appreciate her being vulnerable like that. Well, another thing she said that really stood out to me was that Black people have survived insurmountable obstacles. And, you know, she talks about having the need, you know, to balance between being soft and having control and actually running her life. You know what I'm saying? That's something that we don't really think about as men because we don't have to be soft, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? But for a woman, if she's not soft, a man don't want her.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And you know, what was so ill about what she said, she really accentuated without directly saying it, how much we need each other, how much that balance is needed, you know, between male and female, and why it's so important. You know, she don't have the balance that she craves and doesn't feel that she can be the woman that she wants to be, so that she can be totally okay, because the men, a man in this case, probably, you know, speaking about her husband and his situation, or men generally, have let her down or often let sisters down. That was heavy. That was a very heavy exchange, and I thought it was very necessary. And I like the fact that she felt, you know, that it's okay, you know, to just be emotional and put it out there like that. I like that. I think that that's important.
Dope. I agree with that. Bobby.
All of that. All of that. I definitely agree with all that 100%. I also feel there's another side of that coin as well.
Mm.
You do have the men who are not really helping to create that environment that is conducive to women being in that space. But at the same time, you also do have women who themselves don't want to be in that space. Nowadays, especially things getting hard, you have a lot of women who before were very much on the bandwagon about, okay, so this is where we are, and they're realizing, you know, this isn't what I thought it was. What I thought it was going to be. You know, this ain't exactly what it's cracked up to be over here, and they've started to come out and say now, and the science is also starting to show it as well. You have studies that are showing that these women who are trying to take on these more masculine attitudes and roles, they're less happier than the counterparts. They're more stressed out. They're suffering from health problems now that are specifically based on having high stress. They're putting on weight and not losing it easily. And that's something that women typically aren't the best with anyway. So when you factor stress into that, it's really sapping their best years and their quality of life from them. And the problem is a lot of women, and this isn't necessarily independent of what you were speaking to, Major, because there is some overlap, and there also are some women who what you said is 100% all of them, nothing else. And there are some women who will also 100% embody what I'm about to say now as well. But the problem is a lot of women do not value womanhood and femininity. They do not.
Real talk.
I'm not necessarily, and I don't blame them for that, because I believe that it has been presented in a very uh, less than flattering, very weak and completely undesirable manner. And so that's been your experience or what you've seen of it. I don't blame you for not wanting to embrace that. But the problem is, as a woman, you have to embrace your womanhood and your femininity to get around these issues, like what Nia was describing. Um, a lot of women have penis envy, and they're jealous of men because, in their minds, and you can hear them in a lot of the comments they make, they see men as being powerful, having freedom. They can do what they honestly look at men. We know what we do. We know what our struggles are.
Right.
But they don't necessarily see that, or they don't really necessarily interpret that the way we do. They see men as just being unlimited, having unlimited freedom, power to do whatever, say whatever, be whatever, and all that. And they get jealous of that. They want to have dicks like us too. They want to be able to do what we do.
Right.
And they think that they'll be more successful, more protected, and more happy by taking on that pseudo masculine. If I could just think like a man, you know, if I can just act like a man, be like a man, whatever, it's going to give me the things that I want. And they don't understand that it doesn't work. And so when it falls apart, they're like, "Damn, I did all this, and I'm so far away from where I started. How do I even get back there?"
Mm-hmm.
It starts where women have to embrace womanhood and femininity and being women, and specifically doing something from a healthy and a healed place. Because you have a lot of women now who are talking about they embrace the womanhood, but that whole mindset is caked in misandry, where it's stemming from an I hate male perspective, right? As a woman, your womanhood and your femininity are your superpower. You know, Superman doesn't get stronger when he puts on Wonder Woman's panty drawers and her little bracelets and her tiara and her little lasso. And Wonder Woman looks stupid trying to put on Batman's cape and cowl utility belt.
Real talk.
That's not the role. That's not your lane. Stay in your lane, and I mean that with all sincerity. Um, really quick, because I like giving out tools when I can. I don't have all the answers, but if I have an answer, if I have a suggestion, I don't believe in cuffing that. You know,
Mhm.
the game is free with me.
No doubt.
There's a book that I read many, many years ago, and I'm recently rereading it again. I don't have time to sit down and read like I want to, but I'm listening to the audiobook version of it. And it's pretty good because usually audiobooks don't do it for me. I'm the kind of person I like to actually read and touch the pages. I'm not
Yeah.
big on listening to another person read to me like that. But the
Yeah.
audiobook has been pretty dope for me so far, which I think says a lot. It's a book by Mark Manson called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, a counterintuitive approach to living a good life. And I can say I'm on I just hit the third chapter today, and I can say the book was great when I read it many, many years ago. Going through it again now, it's just as good now. There's a lot of great game and advice in there on how to really attack some of these ideas that we have for men and women about how to be happy, how to be
Mm.
successful, how we see ourselves, how the metrics that we're using to measure some of these things are really, really off. And that's why we can't get anywhere. That's why we're like hamsters on a wheel. We no matter how hard we chase, how intelligent our approach is, we still can't get closer to our goals because we're using a box of Cheez-Its to try and catch a bison. You're using the wrong tools to get to your goal. And so it's a really great book for going ahead and really confronting some of the ideas that we as a group, as a society have on how to get to these things, what they actually mean for us, even why we want these things in the first place. So you want to do some mental stretching, some yoga, and maybe even get yourself on the right path. Definitely give that book a pickup.
All right, damn, that's dope. I wrote it down. I definitely want to check that out in an audiobook. I agree with you. The audiobooks are super dope for me, especially when I'm out driving. I just plug in while I'm at work, plug it in and listening and doing two things at one time, which is pretty dope. So I love audiobooks. I love listening to a lot of things while I'm on the road. So I definitely check that out. All right. So the next, we're going to get into this next clip right now.
For 2 weeks until I can get everybody out.
Right.
The people that I had that was supposed to be in my corner, ain't nobody check on my son, my daughter, my household.
Nothing.
And when I got out of jail, I was at the lowest point of my life. I did everything right on this tour. I didn't take any gang members or nothing crazy. I took the people that was working. I stayed on my bus the whole time. I did everything right, and I got caught up. I had Minister Farrakhan calling me every other day like, Jeezy, brother, the enemy's coming. I'm just like, what the hell is going on? So
Why is he calling you?
he called me and said, Brother Jeezy, your message is changing. The enemy is coming to get you. I said, with all due respect, Mr. Farrakhan, all my enemies in my neighborhood, I'm not going back there no time soon. He said, no, the enemy. But he was saying was that my message was changing and I was starting to educate my people.
Oh,
right?
wow.
And now here comes the enemy. And he wasn't lying. It was when I got to that arena to do my show in front of 30,000 people, it was my turn to go on stage. It was maybe 70 police back there waiting to take me to jail. It was a span of my life, maybe like 3 years, probably shortly after my first album. Like it was shootout to shootout. Like I've been in shootouts with my dad being right there. And it's like a combo of everything. So it's a combo of the street shit I had going on before that.
Yeah.
It's a combo of the get money life with these guys. And then there's a combo of just people that I just never had a liking for. That they have a liking for me, that we just was in the same city trying to coexist. I used to get up and pick my outfit based on what I was, if it happened tonight, how I was gonna look. Right.
You were like, if I die tonight, my shit's
gotta
gonna be
be
fly.
fly.
Do you realize what that does?
Yeah. All right. So I picked this clip because I remember the album, the Recession 2 that dropped. On the album, he kind of has like a Black Panther cap on, right? A little Kango, the Black Panther kind of Kango cap. And I remember that album had like a lot of great conscious stuff on it. And I remember that at that time when he dropped that album, a lot of people were saying that they was like, "Oh, Jeezy changing, man. That album's garbage." And I'm looking at it like, yo, I see the growth in it, and I'm like, yo, this album is pretty dope. And I enjoyed the album, but a lot of people were so used to the Trap or Die version of him. So when he said that, I understood exactly what Mr. Farrakhan was saying when he said the enemy's coming to you, because you're big enough for you to pollute the masses with genocidal music, but you can't take that same uh, power that we give you to produce genocidal music to now switch it up and use that power to now produce knowledgeable music, conscious music to get your people on the right track. So he said that he had like, you know, he went to the concert and they had all these cops there waiting on him to arrest him. And you just see how they turn on you when you're out here educating the people. And it goes back to show you that the whole pull yourself up by the bootstraps propaganda is bullshit. Because when we do pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, when we do sit back and focus on ourselves and build ourselves better to help our community, we always get tripped up. We always get somebody to come and sabotage and burn it down. And then they sit back and say, "Oh, y'all not doing nothing." But you don't point out all the times that you sabotaged and destroyed our community when we was out here helping it and not begging you for any resources or any money. So that whole propaganda about us not uplifting ourselves and not doing positive things for our community is bullshit. They don't want us to do on that level, and they want us to be ignorant. They want us to be docile. They don't want us to be powerful. They don't want us to be unified. So they keep us in this state of mind. This is why you see all the state of hip hop going from uh, being conscious all the way to trash. And even when we had artists that people like to sit back and say that's comparable to some of the trash artists today, the difference is we had more of a balance. And a lot of times we had more conscious balance than we did ratchet balance. We don't have that balance now. Everything right now is pretty much ratchet. The only conscious stuff that you find now is what you have to dig through, like the Sarah or the what's her name?
Rhapsody.
Rhapsody, yeah, Rhapsody, and all these
D1.
other,
Shout out to brother D1.
yeah, sound Simba.
Yes,
Simba's
sir.
pretty dope.
Uh-huh.
You know, Stally, I like Stally. You know, there's a lot of artists that's underground that's doing their thing. They're not getting the whole big commercial break like they're supposed to, but you have to dig for that. And when you dig for anything that you dig for, you're going to lose mass people because a lot of people don't want to dig for anything. They want everything to be served in front of them. So that's why the industry has geared to serve us all this garbage so we can just accept the garbage and not go and dig for the elements and the goals that's sitting there underneath the surface level. So I love the fact that, you know, Jeezy said that, you know, he was out here just trying to change and build the growth. And that element of it was very much needed. And I thought that was so dope for him to actually tell people that that's what was going on, and for him to unify with Farrakhan on that level just shows you that you know, you're now meeting on the islet of where we should be consciously as men in general. So I land my plane on that, and you guys can take it over from there.
Real talk, brother. Look, for me, I was pleased to hear, number one, that the minister showed up. You know what I'm saying? And people, you know, they think that just because somebody's not flashy and somebody's not always in the building, that they're not working. I've heard in a number of instances where rappers are beefing or there's some type of conflict going on, and the minister will intervene, or he'll send one of his people to intervene. So that was great. I'm glad to hear that our brother is still out here, and you know, sounds like he's from what I hear from the people who, you know, are in the nation, he's still in good health, you know, and he's still doing the work. So it's great to hear that, you know, he got some guidance from the minister in that time, and it helped him understand. It's like you always say, and like Neely Fuller says, you know, until you understand racism, white supremacy, everything that you see is going to confuse you.
Confusion.
You know what I'm saying? And that's why when Farrakhan said what he said, he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, all my enemies on the block. And he's like, nah. You know, and he schooled them on who the real enemy is.
Yeah.
And see, that's another thing that a lot of us, you know, are off in the woods about, particularly them young soldiers that's out there, you know, putting in the work, hustling. You know, that energy needs to be misdirected. Needs to be redirected towards who the real enemy is, because we're not each other's enemy at the end of the day. You know, we're fighting over a small amount of resources because we are systematically, economically deprived. You understand what I'm saying? But that is something that is orchestrated by the white supremacists. And so he was kind of putting him on game to that while he's schooling him. And, you know, it does not miss me, you know, how Jeezy's breaking this down and how they came for him when he started doing things right. As long as he was on the bullshit and he's putting poison out there, he's putting these poison pills out there for these kids to swallow. You understand what I'm saying? And he's not really talking about much, you know, and the things that he are talking about, the things that he's talking about has these kids, and not even just kids, but adults as well, you know, because we forget how impressionable adults are to the same type of brain rot. You know what I'm saying? As long as he had them on that steady diet of toxicity and dysfunction, it was all gravy. But the minute he started doing something positive and started doing something good, that's when they came for him. And that's what we're often saying when we're trying to school people, you know, put people up on game to the fact that, you know, these people that's out here, you know, spewing all this ratchetness and doing all this bullshit, they're people that are chosen. They are selected, and they're selected because of their ignorance. You understand what I'm saying? The Sexy Reds and the Jim Joneses, because he didn't like it when D1 said his name. I'm saying it too. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, the Rick Rosses and the, you know, people who put this type of ignorant music out that poison the minds of the people. You know what I'm saying? Nah, bro, that shit ain't right. And we need to keep calling that out. You know, and I really appreciate the growth that Jeezy has shown. You know, I like the way some of trap music sounds audibly. I do. But it sounds great. You know what I'm saying? But everything that you hear ain't necessarily good for you. You know what I'm saying? And I had to wean myself off of that. You know what I'm saying? When I started hearing, you know, stuff, people like Future coming out with these songs called Molly Percocet, where he's just promoting drugs the whole damn song. Who needs to hear that shit? Garbage. You know what I'm saying? And like, you know, I can respect somebody who's talking about their upbringing and they come up or whatever the case may be, and they may have had to do this X, Y, Z to make ends meet, or, you know, even somebody who's out in the street hustling and at least you giving back. You understand what I'm saying? Malcolm X was protected by Bumpy Johnson. Let's not forget that. You understand what I'm saying? And like, I can rock with somebody who's in the street getting down, but they're giving back on that level and people can see it. But if you're just out there doing all this shit, you know, for self-glorification and selfish gain, you know, and it's not, you know, for the benefit of the group, I can't justify you. I don't have a leg to stand on, you know, and he's speaking, you know, to that and talking about how, hey, you know, he's trying to go the straight and narrow. And that's when the enemy, the real enemy, came for him. That was heavy. And that people really need to listen to that part of the interview so they don't miss anything.
Exactly. So well said. Well said. Drake.
I was actually having a conversation that's really good the other day. It was surrounding Andre's latest drop, and the whole thing about flutes and everything else, whatever. And mainly it was, I mean, of course, it was talking about feelings about the album, first impressions, whatever. But most of the conversation started to steer around him saying that he mainly just dropped the flute album because he didn't feel like he had anything to say or whatever, or he wasn't feeling creative in that way. And so we're kind of getting into it. And somebody said, and I've heard other people say it as well too. They were talking about how he's getting some criticism for it because it's not what people are accustomed to, it's not what they wanted to hear, or whatever. Not really respecting his process. And they said that hip hop or rap is really the only genre of music that really doesn't allow its artists to grow up, doesn't allow them to mature. Unfortunately, if you come on the scene and everything is move trap, move keys, sit on the pies. But these hoes run these bitches raw. We don't love these niggas. Sip lean, sip perp. All that. And there's no real avenue. You come out at 23, 24, 25 on the scene. That's how you break in. And you turn 35, 38, 40. They expect any new content you drop to still be the same junk you put out yesterday. And even then, there's criticism. So you try and come out sound like the new guys that criticize you about that. When BG just came home, congratulations to Chopper City making home. Congratulations.
Yeah.
He came out as you could expect. He jumped right in the studio, getting busy. I was actually pleased to see. It was supportive, but I saw a considerable number of people who heard the freestyle that he put out, the music he's putting out. They're saying, sounds like he came out ready to get it. But they were disappointed that he came out and he's dropping, and his music sounds exactly the same like the stuff that got him locked up in the first place. They were actually hoping some growth, and that was actually big for me. I was surprised to see people say that. But you have to grow at some point. And so we might knock people for coming in the game a certain way, but the journey is what's important as well. And for Jeezy to make that turn, whatever it was that gave him that aha moment and to say, okay, we're going to go a different path. Big up to him for doing that and going along that direction, even with criticism behind it. But like Minister Farrakhan said, now the enemy's really here. So you thought the enemy was the dudes you came up with back in your hood. No, you're going to see what the real enemy's like. And we understand this, going to your point, what you said before, Major, about pulling up bootstraps. I love the quote that they said where they kill our husbands and our fathers, and then they make fun of us for being fatherless. They make fun of us for being widows.
Real talk.
So they set you up. They don't want you doing well because they want to have that thing that they can poke at about. When they poke at you, they're not criticizing you. They're not doing it from a place of, well, no, you're slacking. You need to do better. They're making fun of you, and they want to be able to make fun of you. And if you try to remove what it is they're making fun of you on, they want to get in your way because the purpose isn't to spur you to change. It's to demean you and belittle you.
Yes.
Chip away to self-esteem. It's to completely break you overall. They want to get you to that point where you see yourselves, and by yourselves I mean us. They want us to view ourselves as perpetual screw-ups. What's wrong with these black people? They just can't get it right. Why can't black people be like these other people over here? They want that because once you're defeated up here, nothing else matters.
Right.
Correct.
Once they got you here, that's the game. Because at any time, if we want to, we can flip this whole damn thing upside down. At any given time.
True.
We would collect our stuff together.
They
don't want that to happen. I've been, it's already dropped, so I'm kind of behind, but I've been trying to catch up on the Hunger Games to see the new one that's about to drop out. And I completely forgot about, some of the deeper parts of this series, man. And I'm looking at all these parallels and I'm thinking, wow, it's the same exact thing. They don't want you to come up. They want to give you enough hope where you don't completely check out of the game. Because if you don't participate, then that starts, putting them in a bad light. that starts bringing your attention back to the things that matter. That's going to make you realize, okay, we got to put this stuff behind us and get ourselves together. So they want you distracted enough where you can't focus on your real actual problems. But they need to make sure that you're still productive, because all these people in the Hunger Games, they had these people pretty much in subservience. But the government, the capital, where all the head honchos was at, they don't do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They're not productive. They don't do anything. They're not self-sufficient. They depend on all these other districts that they govern and doing things. They have one district that mines coal, one district that runs the power plants, one district that does agriculture. So all these others are the ones that are actually self-sufficient, that are doing things that are useful. But the people in the capital are just a bunch of parasites. They don't do shit. So these people have realized, we don't need them. Let's fight back. They're done. So it's the same thing with us. Once we realize that we have all the tools we need to get to where we need and want to go, we don't need to play this game. That's when it gets scary for them, because now they realize that their position is threatened, because their position is very, very delicate. It's very soft. It's very sensitive. It don't take too much. And so that's why we see these hyper aggressive responses. People will say, well, that's bullshit. Jeezy just a rapper. What they need to come at him for? He ain't nobody. You don't understand. They can't afford for a Jeezy to come up. The reason this sounds ridiculous is because you can't believe that this boogeyman that's been in the shadows for the longest time is really that soft and pudgy. And it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that's why they're very invested, even in these low tier, what we would consider, TMZ gossip mill type stuff. Yes, they're invested in that. Yes, they care about what the talk is and what the chatter is. They care about making sure they steer the conversation, because they can't afford for us to miss and get one step ahead of them.
What's up?
Exactly. Definitely. We've seen that with gosh, I can't even remember how to brain freeze, but I'll definitely go into the next one. But yeah, when you was talking about that, it brought something to my mind. Oh yeah, with Nancy, right? Nancy, the American Gods, Nancy with Orlando Jones.
Nancy, yeah.
We've seen how that went viral, and that was powerful. And even when you listen to the interview of when Orlando Jones wrote it, and because it was so powerful, they cut the season. They eliminated it. So anytime we get a spark of something that produces enough strength to cause revolution, they got to cut that quick. And even with this Jeezy interview, it's so powerful. 2.9 million people have watched it. The thing is, we don't have an added dialogue. That's why we wanted to do that now. But man, there's so much gems in there. What they're doing, and Nia Long is so pro-black, is so dope. So these are the things that they spark the energy to get things going. That's why we got to keep doing it on our level, on our grassroots, and get it promoted and boosted within our community to get that stuff riled up and get our peoples on track. So definitely, I definitely agree with you on that, Drake. So we're going to the next one right now, which is this clip.
Me together. But I had to come to a place where loving myself was bigger and more important than saving anybody.
Well, if you got to save your star player, if your star player is not doing good, the team.
Can we not talk players? Can we use a different? Can we say the best horse in the race?
Right. Oh my God.
But the reason I know that you're guarded is because when I was in high school, I only dated drug dealers.
Oh really?
Oh my God, that's where I was.
So I pulled this part because remember we had that dialogue with about what's his name, Gunplay's wife. And remember we talked about that, Major, and I was like, yeah, I kind of give her she comes off as this intelligent woman that gets caught up with drug dealers, and he was like, yeah, I don't think she's really intelligent. And I was like, I get what you're saying, but I was coming at it from basically how Nia Long, like when you look at Nia Long, you look at the type of caliber of woman she is. She wasn't raised around that element and things like that. And for her to be infatuated or date drug dealers in that persona, that perspective, it shows that a lot of times that the opposites, polar opposites, attract each other. We see a lot of these women at younger ages just being attracted to drug dealers that are far, that are raised on the other side of the tracks, that are not even raised in that type of environment, or even in raised, I would say, more in that type of lifestyle. You know, the bookworm, the two parents, the structured family, and then you dip out of there and you go to the other side of the tracks, kind of like in the movie ATL with Nunu, right? Nunu lived in a big mansion. You know, she had everything. Her dad's a millionaire, big house. She got driving a BMW, and then she goes across the tracks to the hood side and go mess with Ti. You know what I'm saying? Struggling entrepreneur trying to make it up out of there. And she's fascinated with that side, and she feels like she doesn't want to be raised into the millionaire status. She feels more comfortable in the hood status. And it's so crazy because the people in the hood, like, shit, I'm trying to get on your side. And she's on this side and she's trying to jump on the element of being on that side.
Yeah.
So I pulled that part out because I thought it was, I didn't know that. And I thought that was kind of shocking to me because I didn't think she dated drug dealers. But now it resonates to me how well she played in the movie Friday, because Ice Cube was a drug dealer in the movie Friday.
Yeah.
So for her to fill in that role, it came so natural to her. And I'm thinking she's a great actress, which she is, but it also provides a better engagement when you have lived that lifestyle yourself. So it comes natural in her role to do that, to play that role. So I had really that I brought that part out because it really, really shocked me when she said that she really um, dated drug dealers. And also the part where, no, I'm not going to get into that part. I think I got it on another subject. But yeah, you guys could take over. I'll land my plane there.
Okay.
Gotta let it show. I love the dough. I love the dough more than you know. We keep telling them.
Bobby got a song for us too. All right.
I'm just saying, you know, we have these conversations all the time, all the time. And I always love when we bring this up, exactly what Miss Long said about how the women have a taste for them dudes.
Yeah.
And this isn't to get on a whole rant about uh, Walmartavius and Falante and Crimetrius and Scamuel and Puklo and all them niggas. And this isn't to go down that pathway.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always hilarious when we bring this up. You typically hear deflections for women talking about, that's just the women that you know. You need to choose just the women you like, choose better. Or that's just the hood rat. We keep saying, no, it's not the hood. To the extent, yeah, it's not the hood broads that be loving these dudes so much. It's these same exact type of women. And I will always refer to, I think that was probably about a good decade ago now. It might be a little shorter, but in the early days, Jason Black did a broadcast going in, I think it's about like 59 minutes, talking about the Sophista Ratchets.
Oh.
What he did, what he labeled Sophista Ratchets. These women who, by all the metrics, are well to do. These are highly educated women. They're not even undergrad. They're post grad degrees, masters and on up. They have high level jobs. They're getting salaries that are at least 70K and up. Corporate, many of them. They're professors. They're executives. You know, they wear pumps and skirts and glasses, the business attire to work every day, pushing their Benzes, the Lexuses, the Audis, or whatever. Not your bum bra. They speak very well, well spoken, they well traveled. Every metric that you could think of. And in your mind, well, I just know that they're dating doctors and dating lawyers and entrepreneurs, but they got dope man Jay sitting at home on the couch getting it in, dropping them off to work in their Lex truck, going to lay with other chicks while she out of work. He's late coming to pick her up from work because he got to finish with her. And when he went in, and mind you, again, Jason Black, this is a brother that routinely does broadcasts calling out white supremacy, breaking down events and everything else. He's got his videos flagged by a whole bunch of white supremacists and all manner of media figures. And to this date, that video was taken down so quickly and flagged so quickly by YouTube. I'd never seen it before. Man did a whole broadcast going in and breaking down everything that happened in Charlottesville and everything else during the riots up there. And it was the video on the Sophista Ratchets that got him the biggest backlash.
Wow. Wow.
Because they don't want that to come. They don't want that to become public common knowledge. But they don't understand. We see y'all. Look.
Yeah.
Ladies. We see y'all. You can smack talk these cats as much as you want to and belittle them and dog them out. Bunch of thugs. You guys do this, and the third. We see who y'all take home. These dudes, especially these couple dudes, those dudes, they hold water like a rusty watering can. All they do is brag about who they're laying up, but they pull up in the car. Who called it this? Oh, this Latoya's. What's Latoya you mean? Oh, you mean Latoya the Black? Nah, Latoya to live over in Bow Harbor. What you doing with her? So we know the deal. All right. Now, fortunately, Nia was able to, escape from her her little fetish, her little mentality, and come out unscathed. But there's a lot of women right now that have felonies that are doing bids.
Hell yeah.
That have their lives ruined because they can't shake that taste, or worse, in the grave.
Yeah.
Some women have had their children taken by child services because they're in proximity to these dudes, and the state determines that, well, because of basically saying because you making poor pussy choices, your child needs to be someplace else. This happens. So, gotta do better. You can blame the men as much as you want to, and do those dudes need to do better? Yes, they do. However, they need some incentive, and dudes like that don't want much. They're very low maintenance. As long as they get in the cat, they're fine. They don't aspire for more. They're not looking to have better. They like where they are. As long as they get in some access, they cool. So the negotiations and the incentivizations that would work on Anthony, that would work on myself, that would make on Major, that's not going to work on these dudes.
Yeah.
The best way to motivate them, or to just starve them off and make sure they don't pass on their genes to the next generation, is to not give them any play. Not trying to play Home Depot and renovate these dudes. You leave them to die out without passing their genes to the next generation. That's how you win. But you gotta adjust accordingly.
That's the same thing as if you have a child. You don't reward your child for bad grades. You reward your child for good grades. You feel me? So if your child, if your child getting Jordans and all the top of the line games and bringing home D's and F's, what the fuck is going to motivate him to bring home A's? He's going to get the same shit regardless.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive for people to work harder to get the same outcome they could get by doing nothing. Who wants to work harder to get the same or to get less? Nobody. That's crazy. So why do you expect these dudes to pull themselves up by their quote-unquote bootstraps and do better to get the same play that they're already getting?
Yeah.
Why?
Real talk. That part of the interview didn't do it for me. I'm gonna keep it a buck. because here we have yet another black woman and someone that we consider like the top of the top. You know what I'm saying? Saying all she did was date drug dealers. It just, I get where she was going. She's being honest. She's being truthful. You understand? I just wish she would have put a disclaimer on there, like, young ladies, don't do what I did. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Because
another thing.
you know, to the audience, you know, we have a culture out here now that kind of co-signs that. You understand? And when they hear it from her, people usually take all the wrong shit from these type of interactions. So what a lot of women will get out of this is, well, shit, if Nia alone could date drug dealers, then I could date drug dealers. It ain't no big deal.
I'm on the right track.
You understand what I'm saying? That's why that part of the interview just, it was kind of cringy. That's the only part of the interview or the conversation that I didn't really care for. Not because I didn't care for what the sister was saying. I understood what she was saying in its proper context. However, we got a bunch of knuckleheads out here. You understand what I'm saying? And we have a real problem with people, you know, taking, like I said, all the wrong shit from something that's very positive. People listen to a Tupac album, and instead of getting all the revolutionary shit, and instead of getting all the, you know, fight the system shit, they get all the gangbanging shit. You understand what I'm saying? Or, you know, when we ride on our enemy shit, they don't even understand who the enemy is. You understand? Yeah. So that I didn't particularly care for that part of the interview because of that. I really wish she would have kind of given it a little more context or added a disclaimer in there. Look, young ladies, don't do what I did, you know, because I can see people misinterpreting that. But that's her truth. You know what I'm saying? And again, I do appreciate her honesty. And what I took from it, you know, is, you know, that's something that she used to do, but she grew out of it. You know, she's an older, wiser woman. She didn't marry a drug dealer. You understand what I'm saying? She didn't, she's not encouraging her sons to be drug dealers. You know what I'm saying? So clearly she grew out of that. She became a more evolved person. You understand what I'm saying? But others who watch will not likely draw the same conclusion. Unfortunately, a lot of times we like to take the things from an interaction that support our own indiscretions. You know what I'm saying? Our own you know, vices, or the things that make us, you know, impure. The things that support those ideas tend to be the things that we draw and the things that we hold on to. And I just don't want to see people do that. But shout out to Sister D Long. And, you know, she was raised, like she said, you know, she's raised in South Central LA. And unlike Nunu, she was actually in the environment, you know, and she was actually in that environment. So she wasn't going over to try to be down, so to speak. She came from that. And I think that's also what fuels her pro-Black views. You understand what I'm saying? Because you got all these, we got more PhDs and shit than we know what to do with out here. And ain't a goddamn one of them doing nothing for Black society. The last one I can remember that was doing something for the community was Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. And before her, Dr. King, you know, and a couple others I can think of. But, you know, most of these, you know, new age intellectuals, whatever the case may be, your Cornel Wests, your Michael Eric Dysons, all these niggas do is give speeches and write books. You understand? They really do shit, you know. And so that's what I'm saying. Like the people who are out here putting in the work, the Tariq Nasheeds, the Umar Johnsons, the Boyce Watkins, and so forth. Boyce Watkins is a doctor, I guess, who's doing something for the community, but he's about the only one right now I can think of that really is. You know, the ones that the mainstream ones, they ain't really doing nothing. And I think that's also a reason why a lot of these sisters gravitate to these brothers that's a little grimier, because, you know, at least he's working for himself. You know what I'm saying? At least he's showing some type of stability or whatever the case may be, you know, financially. You know what I mean? And he's showing at that time what he's doing looks like strength to a young girl. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what they're craving. And I get it. You know, I get it. I don't want people to misunderstand it.
Yeah, and that's why I pulled that clip out, because I wanted to give a little bit of light to that, as far as like you say, you know, that's not something that we want to highlight or glorify, but I feel like the right context to it, and this is what we're doing tonight, is to pull things out like that and give more detailed context to it, because it wasn't really much context to it. And some, if you notice in the interview, sometimes Jeezy was cutting off Nia when she was really getting into the groove of saying some certain stuff that I think was bringing more context to a lot of the dialogue that they had back and forth. So that's why I pulled that out, so we could have that context and, you know, guide people in the right direction, and understanding this, that a lot of people don't understand that her messing with those drug dealers also plays a part in why her love life is shambled as well. You got to understand, you only can play with fire but so much until your hand gets burnt. Once it gets burnt, it will never turn back to its original state. So she played with fire for a long time, and that fire kind of constructed her way of thinking of what her man or mate is. And that's one of the reasons why people took that clip and talked about how they felt she was flirting with Jeezy in that instance because of that. You see what I'm saying? So I just want people to understand that part of it as well. So I definitely go into the next clip, which is this one.
I'm fighting each other.
Absolutely.
Instead of fighting for the relationship.
Or fighting for love and understanding and commitment and compassion. And but it starts with men feeling, you know, comfortable enough to be vulnerable and open. And that's a hard thing to ask a man to do, because we were not conditioned that way. We were not, a lot of us weren't raised that way. It can be considered a sign of weakness in the same way that therapy is considered a sign of weakness. We're talking about your experiences and my experiences. We have more in common than we probably ever thought we did, right? And so to me, that's the thing that makes me feel this sense of urgency to have this conversation with you, but also there's a hopefulness. There's a hopefulness that if we actually each do the work, we can actually come together, because there's nothing more important to me than Black people. We are the greatness in every room. We are the ones who set it off and make it happen. We are the ones that create the culture. We are the artists. We are the artistes. We are the voices that lead the masses. But what has always hurt me to the core is, why is there this dismantlement of the Black family? Why isn't it that Black men and Black women can't sit like you and I are sitting in a space and have really open dialogues about things and work through the trauma? Because that's the only way we can really be productive.
You said if it couldn't work, then you would leave.
Yes.
Even if there was a family.
All right, so I pulled that out because that really signifies pretty much what we talk about and what we stand on here at Manifestations, even on our personal pages. You know, a lot of times people will sit back and say that we hate women. That's far from the case. We hold men accountable and women accountable. The problem is, when we hold men accountable, men take the information that we give them and they work on themselves to be better. We have men that Major has told, why are you wasting your time? Pull the trigger. Go ahead and marry these women. Stop lingering around. If you feel like this is the woman for you, do it. And guess what? Those men stepped up to the plate and got engaged and on their way to being married. You know, we didn't get no feedback from dudes saying certain things about, oh, well, no, it was no backlash to that. It was like, yeah, bro, you're right. Let me analyze it and do what I got to do as a man. That's a brother talking to another brother in order for him to put his life in a better situation than it was previous to than having that dialogue. When we sit back and say things to women, it's always some pushback. Oh, men can't talk to women that way, or you feel like you better than everybody, or this and that. It's always some form of pushback, and there's no form of holding themselves accountable for their actions. And they demonize any guy who sit back and holds them accountable or points out their bullshit. And that's why you have the easiest thing that women will project onto men that do that is saying that you don't like women or you're gay, right? Those are the deflection talking points that they always like to project on guys who are just giving them valuable information on making themselves better women. And sometimes all your information of being a better woman is not going to always come from other women, because some of them might have low-key motives that don't want you to be better. Just like some of your homegirls tell you your outfit is good, and when you go out there, people laughing at you because your shit fucked up. And your shit fucked up, being fucked up, makes your homegirl look better. So sometimes you got to understand that some of the information you get from your homegirl ain't on point. But a man, especially one that's not trying to get at you, is going to give you that real deal. He's going to give to you that advice as if he was your brother, your uncle, or your cousin. You know what I'm saying? He's going to look at it, and depending on his age, he might give it to you from an aspect of a fatherly figure. So when we go out here and we just trying to make sure that black men and black women come together, because like she said, when we come together, we are the ones that really produce a lot of stuff. And we've seen that because we came together back in the early 1920s of the Black Wall Street, and you see the dynamics and the greatness that we have produced in that. Remember, to this day, Black Wall Street is still the highest gross block and community, even to this day. And what does that tell you? We have Asian community, Hispanic community, the Arab community, the white community, and nobody has yet to beat the status of what we produced on that block in our community during the Black Wall Streets. And we had several worldwide before they were torn down and dismantled and destroyed because out of rage, white rage, and jealousy. So I wanted to highlight that point because I wanted people to understand the powers of unity between black men and black women, and we just need to get back there. And I'll land my plane on that.
Yeah, brother, you said a mouthful.
Yeah.
This clip, it can't be understated, man. You know, at the end of the day, how important it is that we understand the context that we're in initially, or the positioning, the way that we're positioned initially. She speaks about in this clip how we're not conditioned to allow men to be vulnerable. See, she's wise beyond her years, because first of all, in order for you to understand that that's a problem, you have to understand that there has to be times where men have to be allowed to be vulnerable. You understand what I'm saying? And when you understand that, you spitting, because a lot of times women will put men in this state where this superhero like state. You know what I'm saying? Where you're supposed to pay for everything. You're always supposed to be hard, but at the same time that you're always supposed to be hard, you're always supposed to be loving towards them. You understand what I'm saying? And at the same time, you're supposed to, make $1 million. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do that. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do bruh. You have to allow some space for someone to have some air of normalcy. You know what I'm saying? For a man to have some air of normalcy. It's nice to have these lofty goals, but when you have a really strict adherence to this idea in your head of what a man is supposed to be, you're not allowing men to be who they are. You understand what I'm saying? So I think she's kind of speaking to that in this clip. Another thing that was really dope when she said there's nothing more important to me than black people. And we are the voices that, kind of make the world go round. We are the ones that we make shit hot. We make shit pop off. The world follows us and watches what we do. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody, everywhere in the world, they mimic what black folks do, particularly black Americans. You understand what I'm saying? And Black folks need to realize that. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of us, we have a very serious self-hatred issue. You know what I'm saying? And we don't even realize that, as a group. So it felt great to hear a sister say that. See, a lot of times people used to ask me all the time back in the day, why are you single? Why are you still single? You're such a good man. You're very smart. This, that, and the third, you this and that. And it hit me one day. Not enough sisters out here are conscious. You know what I'm saying? Like, and even, among the men, the conscious community is kind of ridiculed, but you see a lot more conscious brothers out here than you do conscious sisters that are serious. There is no female equivalent of the Tariq Nasheed. There's no female equivalent of a Umar Johnson. There is no female equivalent of Boyce Watkins. I could go on. You understand what I'm saying? And part of that is because, unfortunately, the way that things are set up, we're not really conditioned. I guess I can use Nia Long's logic to make this same point. We're not conditioned to appreciate the intellect that Nia Long is showing in this interview. We're not conditioned to appreciate a woman's intellect at all, really, if we're keeping it a buck. And other women are not conditioned to appreciate a woman's intellect if we're keeping it a trillion. When you start talking about women, the first thing is, oh, she's so pretty. Oh, she's a slay queen. Oh, she dressed so nice. Oh, her hair is so nice. You don't ever hear anybody really talk about, how powerful a sister is intellectually. Sisters like Erica Lachey don't get anywhere near the recognition that they should get. You understand what I'm saying? So these type of things, are an issue. And then lastly, what really, really stood out, why can't Black men and women have conversations like the conversation that we're having here and be productive? God damn it, why? That's a great question. You know what I'm saying? Because I see, listen, we do this all the time. And anytime you raise a question and you're critical of something, whatever the case may be, it always has to turn into some type of gender war discussion. You understand what I'm saying? Some type of fight when it ain't even no fight. A lot of the time, it's just asking a genuine question and speaking on the facts of it without reverting, into when you were a child, without reverting back into, the same mentality that you had when you were a child and you just start getting mad because someone said something you didn't like. No, we should be having conversations like this and finding common ground. One of the things that irritate me the most is when people talk about, y'all so negative. You always having these arguments. And man, look, you clearly don't understand how anything gets done in the real world. You know what I'm saying? As long as you're having constructive arguments, it's good to have arguments. You ever see a session of Congress or Parliament? Man, you think they about to stomp some of these people in the head the way they be talking in there. But by the time they're done having their discussion, laws get passed. Ordinances get passed. You understand what I'm saying? They govern a country like this. They have stomp down, knockout arguments. And that's okay as long as y'all all realize that you're on the same team and you come to consensus at the end of the argument and you make valuable change to move forward. These niggas, you know what I'm saying, and these females and these groups, they just want to bitch and whine. That don't accomplish nothing. And I'm sorry, I gotta call the ladies out. Women in particular never want to accept accountability and just be like, okay, you know what? You're right. That's something that we need to work on. And I see brothers do that all the time. I very seldom see sisters do that. That's why I appreciate, and I can name the sisters. I can call them by name, the Erica Lachey's and people like that. You remember it because you hardly ever see it. You understand what I'm saying? We need more of that. We need more people coming to the table in good faith and not just listening and not just, yapping, but being willing to make meaningful changes within themselves. Take shit from this conversation. Don't just listen to it or come in there to bitch. Take shit from the conversation. go back to your people and in your personal life and make these changes so we can do better and get along better. That was the most powerful shit she said in the whole interview right there. Why can't we do that, people? And
Definitely.
I got a little passionate on that one, but man,
No, it's all good.
bruh,
It's all good.
that's where it's at.
Tell me how
Yeah.
you feel, son.
I'm just Jesus. Go ahead, Bob. What you got, man?
That's about as circular an argument as you're ever going to get. Because while it is important that men, black men in particular, need to be vulnerable to an extent, we can't afford to be.
True.
It's a liability. It's a very sick cycle that we're on where we keep talking. So, of course, with the whole advent of the mental health resurgence, and we've spoken about this before. This whole mental health being the buzzword, the catchphrase now is trending to talk about mental health, and mental health is important, and you need to care for your mental health, protect your mental health, you need to maximize your mental health, go to therapy. But the whole talking about these things, or talking about these things, is trendy. It's hot. It's the right thing to do. As is usually the case, though, the execution leaves a lot to be desired.
There is no execution.
So, and a lot of times, unfortunately, for good reason. So, I just got in the habit. I used to go and have long conversations. This is one of those subjects that I could probably do a dissertation about. When they talk about, what's the one subject that you can, hold a meeting and talk about, I could probably hold a dissertation on the whole concept of this. I don't have the time or the patience to do that anymore. I guess it's a consequence of getting older now. My temperament, my patience, my fuse for things is getting shorter every time I take a breath.
Yeah.
I just mentally don't have the bandwidth for it anymore because I get tired of redundancy, saying the same thing over and over again, especially when I see that there's no headway. So I've gotten to a point now where I found a clip that perfectly encapsulates everything I want to say. And when I see the conversation, I just paste, submit, and just let the pipe bomb go off. And I don't know if I'm sure I shared it with y'all before, but it's that clip of this wellness influencer by the name of Shan Boodram. She has a podcast that I believe is pretty good. It's on all the major channels or the outlets. She was featured as a sex therapist in one of the episodes of Temptation Island. So she's been around a little bit. And some years ago, she was on the Fresh and Fit podcast. Not trying to give them any kudos, but it is what it is. And the conversation was about men and vulnerability. And when she was on there, not the Fresh and Fit. I'm sorry, it was Abba and Preach. Same rules apply. Not trying to give any promo there. And she went on this whole little diatribe talking about how men need to be more vulnerable. It's important that men are vulnerable. Why can't men be more vulnerable? And Abba and Preach, having a pretty good, what I would deem to be a pretty solid broken clock moment, were giving her the game and letting her know why it was BS. And of course, she was, not going along with it. About, I would say, several months, maybe about 8 to 9 months later, she dropped she had on her podcast, she invited Abba and Preach to come on. And she basically had an episode geared around revisiting that same subject. And she said, when I came on the show, and she was playing clips of what happened on the show and things that she was saying, when I came on your show, I was expressing why, men need to be vulnerable. It's very important. They just need to do it. Stop being scared and just go for it. And she said in the months that followed from that, just in the comments of the video alone, all the testimony of various men, different things that she'd been seeing and hearing, whatever, she realized just how terribly wrong she was. And the truth is, she said, society, including women, don't want more vulnerable men. They don't. Because when men start talking about their feelings, when they start getting to their emotions and really start bearing the fruits of their soul,
Mm-hmm.
women might look and say, okay, it's nice. Oh, he's sharing, he's open with me. And if he misses talks one minute too long now, it's, oh my God, can he shut the fuck up?
Yep, that's exactly
Oh, let's
how
talk
it
about his feelings. Like, oh my gosh, or I didn't do this to you, or why are you talking about what I did to you? Takes basically they shut and belittle him right on down.
is. Right.
Or worse, they go and take the same information and they bring it up and they store it in the back of the mind, use that as fodder for an argument. He misses and checks her for something that she doesn't like. All of a sudden, that's why your brother's dead now.
Mm-hmm. Real talk. You just made me think about
Or,
Adrian.
or, or, or I'm not listening to that from a bedwetter.
Yeah, yeah.
All kind of things. They just throw the low blows, and sometimes they don't even mean to do it. But once you do that, especially with men, because we understand how hard this is, you have one good time to do that to a dude, and even if he forgives you, he will never forget that. It will never
Mm-hmm.
be the same ever again. And the fact is, women in society look at men to be problem solvers. For better or for worse,
Mm-hmm.
being vulnerable is looked at as complaining,
Yeah,
whining.
it is.
We
It
don't
is.
look to men to whine and complain. We look to men to be doers, to be builders, to be problem solvers. They go to, that's why you have people refer to men as being the rock. You don't necessarily look at men as going to women and she's being his rock. It should be that way, but it's not the case. And a lot of women, even if they don't realize it, when a man becomes too comfortable being vulnerable in that sense with his woman, the attraction changes. If it does, it'll go into one of two negative directions. Neither one is positive. It'll either push her away. She becomes turned off. She's no longer attracted to him in an intimate way. She might like him, but she starts to resent him. She wants a man who's going to start bringing those emotions out of her that gets her hot and bothered. And the dude that's here crying about his cat that got run over when he was a boy and how it never left him, that's not doing it for her anymore. Or the attraction changes, and now it goes from a romantic relationship between a man and a woman to now she sees herself in a nurturing parental state of mind, and she basically mentally becomes his mom. So now she's viewing him the way that she would his son, and she's nurturing him. She's there, it's okay. But she's lost that respect and attraction to him as a man, and now she sees him almost as if she's his mother.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, it's not conducive to the relationship. So maybe if men en masse were to go this route, it would change society and this would no longer be the case. Problem is, the benefits of this would not be experienced until the next generation or the generation afterwards. Meanwhile, a lot of men would suffer, a lot of women would suffer in romantic relationships because they're not compatible with each other. Because the train is completely off the track and there's going to be some time until it can get to a different one. So the question is, who wants to die on that hill? Who wants to fall on that sword to make things better for the generations to come like that? It's a tall task to ask for. So, and this is why I keep saying, because men do need to be vulnerable, and this is why I keep standing on this. Go see a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Go see somebody that has training and tools where you don't have to worry about what's going to be the negative outcomes in your personal relationship. No. Stop trying to go to your banker to go ahead and handle your butcher work.
Mm.
Mhm.
Stop trying to go to your lawyer to go ahead and get a tooth cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
Leave the professional jobs to the professionals. You have therapists that have training and experience who can help you navigate your feelings, navigate your issues, judgment free zone on some Planet Fitness type stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and they can help you have tools to navigate these things and become a better version of yourself as well. I will say that I think more and more it's starting to become normalized. One of the things that, for those who know, you know that I'm very big into fight sports. I'm big into been a
Mhm.
MMA fan for decades now. And I watched last night a fighter that I like a lot. This dude, he had a very amazing performance. It was an excellent match. Ended up winning, breaking into the rankings now. And when they talked about him, said, you know, we've talked for the longest about how talented you are, how skilled you are. And you just look like you had all the answers. You're really smooth. You're really composed. This might have been your best performance to date. What do you owe to this? And he said, and I'm very happy because I've been advocating for this for the longest. He said he's recently started seeing a sports psychologist. And he said that's really helped him to unlock the best version of himself. He says, because you guys have never seen everything that I have, and I've never felt like I perform in the arena, the octagon, the way I do in practice. And this therapist has been helping me really answer these questions and really unlock and be that better version of myself. And I keep telling people that's a cheat code. You want to become a better entrepreneur, a better husband, a better father. You want to become a better competitor. You want to become a better creative, whatever it is. You want to be just a better person. Go and see a therapist. Find someone. You might need to shop around, see a couple. Go find somebody. Hit up our boy Matt Genius. He's very thorough, very competent. Get at us if you're trying to get his information. If he doesn't feel like he's the right fit for you, he's clicked in the community. He can definitely recommend you to someone who probably might be able to assist you. But that's the cheat code to get to the next level. We need to be vulnerable. We don't need to be going about it the way we've been going about it. So we need to get smarter and more intelligent with how we do these things, man.
Agreed.
All right. So we're going to go into our last clip and then we'll wrap it up for the night.
Ego, you're basically trying to either control someone
Yes.
or to get them to see life the way you see it.
Yes.
And I had to learn that that's not how you live life, right? And most of my ego came from fear.
Absolutely.
Right.
There's good ego.
Right.
There's good ego that allows you to do this because this is something new, right? There's good ego that allows you to be a disruptor.
Yes.
That's good ego. Because in disrupting the system, in disrupting what we're used to seeing,
Right.
you're also providing a new way of doing things, right?
It's hard though.
Yeah, it's hard because you're putting yourself in a position to be an example.
Right.
But you're still learning and growing.
And also you're putting yourself in a position to lose everything that you built because people can look at you and you know our culture. You can do one thing and they're like, oh, we cool on him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like I had to learn not to teach or to preach. I'm not this role model. I'm just saying that when you come from where we come from, it's okay to evolve because at the end of the day, I don't want my kids to think I was just a great artist. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm a great man. I'm a great person. I'm a great father. And
That's
I was
more
saying,
important than anything.
because I was saying, God, I'm a real nigga, like all that. Now you're all these things. I'm all the things, right?
I just said that to you when you.
Yeah. All right. So I pulled this clip because I wanted to show people that ego, because we have this thing about ego being a negative thing, right? And I love the fact, that's why I love Nia Long so much, because she's so in depth. Like, I really want to see more interviews with her. She says ego can be good. You know what I'm saying? Ego could be very good in the way you're trying to help develop your community. You have an ego behind that, and I wanted to highlight that because Manversations has an ego behind it as far as making our people better, standing on what we stand on. That is an egotistical way and approach of handling our community. It's not in a negative way. We're not condescending anybody or condemning anybody, but we're doing this in a productive way to get the production that we want to see from our community. So I love the fact that she broke that down and gave that part of it as well, because that's what we stand for here. And I just wanted to play that last because I feel like the platform that we're creating, our personal platforms, this platform, and everything that we've been doing through up into life to now, and what we're going to be doing in the future, all is for the embetterment of our people. And that is a great ego stance that I would love to take, and I've been taking to get ourselves and our people in that community. So I just wanted to show that part of it. and show that how great we can be in that space when we do things in a more positive way and not always look at things in the negative aspect of it. So I just wanted to land my plane with that and pretty much wrap up the show on my comment with that, and you guys can wrap up the show on your comment or what you just saw in that particular.
No, that's very insightful, brother. That's dope. Man, the thing that jumped out at me about that particular clip is the first thing that Jeezy said about how he used to try to control people and make them be what you want them to be. Man, let me tell you. You understand? Don't do that shit. Don't do that shit. You gonna crash out, bro. You are going to drive yourself crazy trying to do that shit. See, people often talk about this, and you hear women on the flip side say, they meet a guy and he's controlling or he's this or he's that, and whatever the case may be. That ain't it. That ain't the sweet spot. The sweet spot is finding someone whose interests align with yours. You know what I'm saying? And finding someone who has enough self-control where you don't have to try to control them because they have control of themselves. Got these wild, unruly chicks out here acting like hyenas in the wild. You understand what I'm saying? Then when a dude comes and, hey, you can't be acting like that. Well, who are you to tell me anything? You ain't my daddy, this, that, and the third. They don't even respect their own daddy. Their daddy can't tell them nothing. You understand what I'm saying? But where we go wrong is we're going to try to make this person. We can see that this is an unruly, just obnoxious, just monster. And we're going to try to make her into a lady. You understand what I'm saying? Nah, bruh. You know what I'm saying? You got to peep her. You got to meet her where she is. You know what I'm saying? You got to meet her where she is and see if that's the place that you want to go. If it's not, that's cool too. But that he spoke a word right there. Brothers got to stop trying to do that shit, trying to make somebody just because she fine, when the look is right, when the sex is good or whatever the case may be. If it ain't right up here and in here, the shit is done. It's over. It's over before it even starts. You might as well put her ass on a 60-day plan right now because it ain't gonna work. You understand what I'm saying? So that was number one. Then he said, he's talking about how, he had all, this ego, but the ego he had was negative and most of it came from fear. That's another thing. That's another big flaw a lot of us have. You know what I'm saying? We so scared that somebody gonna take something from us that we big ourselves up and try to make ourselves seem like more than we are so that we can intimidate those people, that we are intimidated by. Really. We want to try to intimidate them first. We want to try to get to them mentally first. When what we should be doing is humbling ourselves, getting close to people that are better than we are, so to speak, and listening to them and soaking up game so that we can learn from them. You understand what I'm saying? And then once we learn from them, we need to be we got Sister Mila Renee in the house, and that her and her husband always talking about nation building. Humble yourself and you learn from the brothers and sisters that are smarter than you, that are better than you, that are more, evolved than you or whatever, instead of trying to ridicule them. Oh, you think you better than me? Nah, you're doing some stuff right. And I need to learn from you. Let me talk to you. Let me get some stuff from you. And once I get it, well, let me work with you so we can build together. That's how our mentality used to be, and that's what we need to get back to if we want to start seeing success. You know what I'm saying? And the last thing that really jumped out from that clip is when brothers talking, and then of course she jumped in and she talked about how there is positive ego, and that can't be ignored either. There is positive ego, and like you said, this is what we're about. We're about positive ego. You know what I'm saying? Like, coming in and staking a claim to something that's about something and building it. You know what I'm saying? That's what that's about. And very insightful for her to, take the flip side of what he's saying and point that out. Because a lot of people don't realize that there are two sides to ego, and that was that.
Mm.
Nia Long is razor sharp. I mean, this sister, that brother really fumbled the bag when he did what he did. You know, when I hear messing around with all these chicken heads, when you got a sister who's that brilliant at the crib,
Mm.
you're not supposed to slip up on that. But such is life, right? And
Mm.
last but not least, you know, what was dope that Jeezy said was when he said, you know, I don't just want to be remembered as a great artist. I want to be remembered as a great man, as a great
Mm.
as a great, because a lot of us get caught up in, you know, these societal boxes they like to put us in. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you know, well, he's a blue collar worker, he's a white collar worker, you know, well, he's, you know, in politics and she's in, you know, whatever. And it's like, bro, at the end of the day, you need to be your best self for you and the people around you, and you need to have positive impacts on people's lives. You know what I'm saying? If you can take care of yourself, um, raise sound quality offspring, and you know, impact other people's lives in a positive manner, you've done your job and then some. So shout out to Nia Long and Jeezy for this extraordinary interview. It's one of the best I've heard. I would like to hear them do this regularly. Jeezy sound, I never heard Jeezy talk like this before. That brother has grown a trillion times over from, you know, who he was when I first heard him, and Nia Long is razor sharp. I'd like to see them do a show together, man. Wow, it blew my mind when I watched it. So shout out to them. Hopefully we can get more of that instead of all this, you know, ratchet entertainment. You know, every time black people talk, it's some ratchet bullshit where they throwing chairs and shit and throwing drinks at people. You know what I'm saying? Nobody needs to see that shit. You know what I'm saying? So this was something that's very needed, very mature, very evolved, and I really appreciated it. Shout out to Nia Long and Jeezy. They brought it home with this one.
Sure. Well said. All right, Drake, it's up to you. Wrap it up for us.
Yay. Speech.
So be it. Yeah, so I really like, that's the thing that probably resonated with me the most, because that's probably the closest you get to new information or new ideas that aren't really out there. And when I see that, I definitely jump on that, because I like the idea of thoughts that are very I don't want to say that's out there, but that's not too well known being expressed there. The idea that ego can be a positive thing. So ego really in truth is just it's an aspect of who we are. It's a tool. Every single person on the planet has an ego, plain and simple. There's the ego that's in check and the ego that's unchecked. And typically when people are acting out in crazy ways and full of pride, hubris and everything else, that's chopped to, you know, well, they have this ego, that's this big ego. They got a real large ego that's out of control, whatever. They're just, you know, blase, blase. However, the alternative that many people take is trying to just bury their ego. They see that the ego is something to conquer. It's something that should be put in a box and locked up and just tucked away. You know, it's a bad thing. If you have an ego, you're a negative person, but it's part of who you are. The next level, if you're a person who's about self-growth, who's about self-improvement, about evolving as a human being, you get to a point eventually where you hit a plateau and it's like, I can't do any better. I've run out of things to correct. That's not true. The growth should be never ending. The growth stops the day you die. But the question is, what do I tackle? And if I feel like I've done everything else successfully, what's the next level to get to? The next level is to dig down under the hood, take out the negative aspects of yourself, and you got to change how you see those things. The ego is really a tool. Now, you don't have to use the ego. You don't have to make use of it. But if you want to become a stronger person, a better person, if you want to get to the next level of self, it's taking that and using that which you see as a negative for positive. So like you said, so let's say that you have an ego and your ego tells you, well, you know, I'm gonna smack anybody that disrespects me. I'm not letting shit slide. I'm standing on business. You come my area, if I'm moving dope, you step in my territory, you try and cross my property, you try and mess with my business, that's over for you. You cheat on me, I'm tossing your ass to the curb, you ain't gonna disrespect me again. I'm not gonna give you 2 times to try me like that. That's ego that's up there. You on 10. What happens if you take that same ego and say, you know what? I'm addicted to my ego, how this is gonna go. So because of my ego, I've got to be the best father possible. I got that chip on my shoulder. My goal is to be the best father alive. I want to be the most loving father, the most present father. I want to be there for my child. I want to have all the right advice to them. I want to live a life that they can be proud of, that they can look fondly on. And I'm not going to let anyone or anything get in the way of that, because that's what your ego and pride is dictating. Or you know what? I want to be the best husband alive. I want my wife to wake up every day and feel loved, secured,
Mm-hmm.
protected, provided for. I want to make sure all her needs are covered. Most, if not all, her wants are up to par. Stand up. I want to be a man that she's proud to be married to. I want every time she hears my name for a smile to come on her lips or whatever. I want to make sure that, our 20th year of marriage, our 30th year, our 40th year is just as good as year one. If you could take the ego, as powerful as it is, and channel it into doing positive work, how can you not become the next level? Take
Mm-hmm.
the things that you dislike about yourself the most, dig into that soil and find ways to make them positive. Flip the script on them, because there's a gift in everything, right? All of these things, all these attributes, they're just tools. So yeah, you can toss the tool away in the closet because you can't use it. You don't know how to go about making the most out of it. But what if you were to take the time to actually learn and figure out, how do I make this curse into a blessing?
No doubt.
That's powerful. And I love that Nia tossed that idea out there into the picture. I'm hoping that, I think you said, Ant, it was like 2.9 million people have seen that video so far. I hope they got that deep into it and they were able to hear that. And I hope that's going to inspire some of them to say, you know what? Maybe this ego thing isn't all bad. Maybe there's something to that.
No
So
doubt.
that's the big thing that I took away from that. And also, just as a summary, this was a very, very good conversation. I like it. No gimmicks, nothing cringy. You have two intelligent, capable people. No nonsense, no jankiness, no playful stuff. It was a very light and casual, but very serious conversation. Very well done. Wouldn't have thought to expect this from the two of them. Not that I have a bad association with either one of them, but just at this level, I think a lot could be built off of this.
Mind blowing.
And uh, when you talk about having celebrities or well-known people together to chop it up and really, you know, get into the weeds with things, I definitely think this is a blueprint that should be used. It was very natural. It felt like two old friends catching up. They both have done a lot in their careers. They've been in their respective fields for quite some time, and they brought their experience with them. But I like also that they very much demonstrated that they're not out of touch with where they came from. Because you can't have a conversation like this if you've completely turned your back on where you're from and the things that made you and brought you to where you are, the good and the bad of it. So we
Right.
got to see all those sides from both of them. There was no varnishing or we're trying to look good for the camera. They weren't trying to revel in their pasts, but they also weren't trying to just completely divorce themselves from it either. They did a good job of showing that, hey, I have a foot in both worlds. Where I am or where I was, maybe, or who was it who said it? I can't remember who said the quote, but they said, there's the old me and there's the present me, and I'm cool with both of them.
There you go.
So
There
I,
you
I,
go.
I like that. I'm hoping that I don't know. I don't know if the two of them may have another conversation. I don't know if Nia's going to take this show on the road. If it's going to be another conversation with her, I don't know if Jeezy's going to go ahead and pick up the mantle. But I wouldn't be opposed to seeing more of this in the future. I think that this is what needs to be going viral, what needs to be on people's feeds and stuff
This
being
is
talked
it.
about.
Yes.
I totally agree. Yes, it was a very great conversation. I'm glad we were able to break down a lot of the stuff and give a little bit more clarity and shed more light on the situation, on the dialogue itself. So hopefully this goes out like wildfire as well as a kind of a cliff notes kind of dialogue that we're giving to something that is powerful. So thank you so much for everybody that's been watching. Like I said, like, share, subscribe to the platform. I will definitely see you guys next week. Make sure that you guys are being very safe this weekend. Always talk about how the holidays come up, and please guard your children, yourself, your family, especially with the holidays coming up, because as we get closer and closer towards Christmas, people are going to get wilder and wilder because they're not getting the money. So just make sure that you're out here doing what you need to do to make it to 2024 in a very strategic and positive way. All right. With that being said, Manifestations is out. Peace out, family. We love
Make
y'all and
sure
see
to
y'all
follow, like, subscribe.
all day, every day. All
Yeah.
right.
We live. Let's
For
get
sure.
it. All right.
All right. Peace.
See y'all.
On the album, we do things like songs that are little, what we call sexy. You can see from the title, it's more of a love album.